So you've been hearing a bunch about hardcore classic WoW recently, and I've been thinking about getting into it, or maybe you have already given it a try and remember that vanilla questing is pretty punishing at times. I've kinda been in the same boat, and between Raiding and Wrath have been playing more and more vanilla once again. Weird flex, but during Classic originally I leveled a total of 10 characters from 1 to 60. I even made a video about it, and during that time I learned a whole lot about questing, so today I thought I'd dig into some of the mechanics of vanilla leveling, share some tips and tricks, as well as things to keep in mind on your hardcore journey. To start off with, as this is kind of an essential bit of information for this kind of video, hardcore is an unofficial player-made game mode, where the primary goal is to reach level 60 without dying. It's played on Classic WoW era servers that can be found under the Classic tab of your Battle.net launcher. If you're on NA, roll on Bloodsail Buccaneers, and EU is Hydraction Waterlords. Hardcore WoW also uses an add-on just called Hardcore that you will want to install. This is used by the community to validate that players are respecting the rules of the challenge, adds cross-skill chat, new achievements into the game to go for, and much more. Worth checking out before you start. After that, make your character, log in, most people ask for an invite to a hardcore guild in the chat, and you're ready to start your journey. So what I'll be covering today will be more general tips that any player or class could use as starting points. They aren't in any particular order, but there is so much difference between vanilla leveling and how it is during any other version of WoW that there's quite a bit to talk about here. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Factor 75. Winter is finally over, so it's time to gear up and look good in your real-life transmog. And though eating the right things can be hard, Factor 75 offer convenience to make it easy. Factor 75 provide delicious dietitian-approved meals delivered straight to your doorstep. These meals are calorie counted, and the weekly menus feature over 30 restaurant-quality meals, including keto, calorie-smart vegan, vegetarian, and many more. So no matter the dietary requirements, there will be something for everyone. But the biggest benefit is that you won't be spending ages in the kitchen, as each meal is ready in 2 minutes. It's microwave food, but not in any way you've seen it before. There's even insulated packaging, meaning you don't have to be at home when the delivery is made, and the contents will remain at refrigerated temperatures for some time. So why not kickstart your spring goals with Factor 75? You can use my link or go to factor75.com and use code POGWILLYAPR50 for 50% off your first box. Once you click, my description will live update to count the purchases. Many thanks to Factor 75 for the sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. I want to start off with a few add-ons which are good on any class. As per usual with add-ons, different setups may achieve the same results, but this is what I know works. First up is a combination of 4 add-ons: Omni CC, Classic Cast Bars, Modern Target Frame, and Classic Aura Durations. These 4 bring back functionality to the enemy's target frame by more clearly displaying your debuff durations, enemy buff durations, enemy health values, and enemy cast bars. Omni CC does a full overlay on the enemy character portrait when affected by hard CC. Note that the enemy cast bars aren't perfect. Sometimes low-level enemies have low-ranked spells which have shorter cast times, and the add-on doesn't always recognize that, but it's better than nothing. Weapon swing timer is good for those who melee, both to judge your damage output as well as your enemies. For me, this is an essential on Hunter, who need to stand still during their auto-attack wind-up and have both melee and range swing timers. Vendor price adds a value to all items so you can see, well, how much they vendor for. Really good for when you're working out your gold, when you want to go and buy skill ups or train some weapons, buy your mount, whatever it may be. Also helps you judge quest rewards when you're not going to equip them. Spellbook Abridged adds a filter to hide spell ranks in your spellbook. It just makes things a bit cleaner really. The majority of the time you will want to be using your max rank. For pure melee classes, the game does this automatically because there is no benefit to downgrading, such as on Rogue or Warrior. Also, when you macro any ability, if you include the spell without any rank, it will always use the highest learned rank. If you do not do this, remember to drag new levels of spells out of your spellbook onto your bar each time you learn them. Additionally, on abilities, some of them just aren't worth the price. I would need to talk about this on a class by class basis, but if you can't say how you're going to be getting any use out of the ability, it might just not be worth buying. For example, if I'm leveling a hunter, I would probably ignore all tracking abilities bar hidden. I would ignore aspect to the pack, aspect to the beast, disengage, mongoose bite, scorpion sting, volley, and the point is, a lot of abilities aren't always worth the price tag at the level you can first learn them. them. Getting a mount at level 40, however, which needs 100 gold, that is pretty important. You can judge mobs roughly by their name. If they're called Slayer, they're gonna have Execute. If they have Run in their name, they're gonna run faster than normal. I swear I'm not making this up. If they're Mystic, Shaman, Wizard, Sorcerer, expect them to cast spells. You can make an educated guess as to what you are fighting before you engage it. Alternatively, there is an add-on that does this called Classic Bestiary. Note that it will often have the correct ability listed, but not the correct details for it. So tons of mobs have Enrage, but there's many different variations of the Enrage spell. Up to you whether you want to use it. It's pretty powerful, but it will save you a lot of unprepared deaths. Some of the biggest abilities to look out for are stuns, roots, and heals. One of the most dangerous mob mechanics is Thrash. A ton of different mobs have this with absolutely no rhyme or reason as to why. It's basically Wind Fury adding 2 extra attacks to their next hit, so whenever a mob has Thrash, you need to be particularly careful with your health. It's also not a visible buff on the mob when it's going to Thrash, so you don't know when they're going to do it. On top of that, mobs can store Thrash charges, so if you engage a mob who uses this ability, has it come off cooldown and uses it again without hitting you, this can happen if you're kiting. If they ever do get to you and hit you, they will hit you with their melee and then both thrashes, meaning 5 attacks in one go. This is unlikely, but I thought I'd give it a mention. Next, yeah, I can totally fit through there. You know what I'm talking about. You're going somewhere, 2 mobs are about the same distance apart, and you think you can just about fit between them. You try, and you end up pulling both of them. This can be the start of a situation that gets out of hand. It's vanilla leveling after all, and you're going to be doing some grinding, so just pick one side, kill one, move on. Casters are disproportionately dangerous early on. Many of them just have spells which are plain overtuned for the level they're found at. Back in original Classic, Defias Pillagers were more dangerous than most raid bosses. Having cast bars, which we've already gone over, will allow you to judge when to dip around a corner to avoid damage if you're able to. I should also mention caster leeway. You know how sometimes you're running away from a caster, you are super far away and they still get their cast off. That is casting leeway. You benefit from it too, by the way. If you start a spell and the mobs run out of range, you gain a few extra yards where your spell can still fire off. Enemies always have larger than usual cast ranges too. For example, Defias Pillager's Fireball is a 40-yard ranged cast. Run early if you're gonna run and try and line of sight as a priority. Spatial awareness is a big thing. Playing zoomed in makes things harder than they already are. Setting the camera to max zoom for the in-game options is good, but you can go beyond that with this macro. You may not want it that far out, but generally speaking, being more zoomed out is a good thing. One of the biggest and easiest to miss bits of quality of life in Wrath is that after suffering 2 spell knockbacks on a cast, you'll be immune to further knockbacks and will cast like enemy mobs do. In Classic, this protection does not exist. If you're getting hit, you're going to be getting your spell knocked back. This is particularly dangerous against fast attacking enemies such as those dual wielding or cats, so get them low health before they're in your melee range as a caster. Some mobs are immune to certain attacks. This has been implemented in a pretty inconsistent way, but should be kept in mind. If it's a fire elemental, Fireball ain't gonna do anything. Same goes for water elementals and the Frost School. Rock and wind elementals are immune to nature. Shamans have a really bad time in Silithus from what I remember. Some rock mobs are also immune to bleeds. Some of them aren't. As for mechanical units, there isn't really a ton of them in the game, but they're immune to a lot of things, including bleeds, incapacitate, fear, life drain, and horror effects. Warlocks on Alliance, I'm just saying, Harvest Reapers in Westfall, if you underestimate them, you're gonna die really fast. Undead are also immune to fear effects as well. Sometimes they're immune to horror, sometimes they're not. Again, it's pretty inconsistent. Next is something I call aggro delay. I never really hear about this one be talked about, but I use it quite often when I'm not 100% that combat's going my way. So if you're in combat with a mob and you move, it will either follow you instantly, or it will just kind of stand still for around a second before resuming chasing you. That second is often enough time to be able to kite, wait for cooldowns, or escape. This can sometimes take several attempts to trigger, but at least on lower level mobs is quite consistent. There's a number of low health mob interactions too. Some will run in fear at low health. These are almost exclusively humanoid mobs, though for some reason does include tall striders, I don't know why, and often mobs which have a young tag in their name. Save some CC or a big damaging ability to ensure low health mobs don't make it to others and create a difficult situation. On top of that, when mobs reach low health, their movement speed is reduced. This is very important to know for kiting. I want to say different mobs interact differently with this though. I would say on average, some mobs have a reduced movement speed under 35% health, most have a larger reduction below 20%, and nearly all have the biggest reduction below 10%. I know this isn't the most exact information, but it's generally good to be aware of. Strafing is important to learn. So strafing is moving in a direction whilst your character is facing a different one. You can directly bind strafing instead of turning on your key bindings, or just hold down right click and begin moving. I've always done the right click version. Whilst there is a time and a place for backpedaling, sometimes you need to be getting away from mobs a little bit faster than that, and most of the time strafing is just better. It stops you from getting dazed since you have to be hit from behind for this to happen, and allows you to keep dodge, block, parrying, all of that stuff, aka free mitigation whilst you're running away. Very good practice to learn, though keep checking what's in front of you and where you're going. Mob leashing. This is a super important mechanic to understand in Classic. In short, the rule of thumb is that mobs will chase you for a certain period of time after engaged in combat. Whenever you hit a mob, it resets its leash timer. This is why some mobs seem to follow you forever and ever, and you're wondering why they're not resetting. If you do not intend to kite a mob, you must stop hitting it back. This also goes for pets as well, as they have their own leash. I stop attacking by just hitting escape on my keyboard. Understanding how to strafe and how mob leashing works will save your character again and again. Next is parry haste. So when an attack is parried, the person who parried, be it you or the enemy, will have their next melee swing timer reduced by 50%. Meaning parries are actively a damage gain on top of damage mitigation. This can be very noticeable taking on enemies using two-handers when you're dual wielding, or vice versa. A lot of burst damage can come out of nowhere. Parry haste is one of the factors why fighting green mobs feels easy and orange mobs are difficult. Level difference between you and your target counts for a huge deal, affecting stats such as dodge, parry, hit, block, resist, and glancing blows. Treat the enemy mob's level as a guideline for, is this such a good idea? I'd straight up avoid red level mobs. I mean, it's hardcore. Why are you fighting stuff that's more than 5 levels above you anyway? In addition to that, mobs 3 or more levels above you have a 15% chance to deal a crushing blow, with a further 5% for each level thereafter. These are regular attacks that deal 150% of their normal damage. So in short, just fight stuff around the level you're at, or your health bar can really disappear out of nowhere. By default, the game has start attack and interact on right click, meaning if there's an aggressive or neutral enemy where you thought there was not, you're going to be attacking them, possibly PvP flagging or hitting a guard by accident. If you put interact on left click, you won't have that risk. Keybind, you will have panic abilities, health pots, training dummies if you went engineering, cooldowns, and so on. You don't want to be trying to escape a dangerous situation and trying to click things at the same time. Bind your items, bind your abilities. Vanilla also gives you loads of handy quest items early game, such as super sticky glue, explosive rockets, bag of marbles, and so on. Remember these items, keep them on a keybind, and get the most out of them. Next is, just because it looks like a solid object does not mean it is one. In World of Warcraft, some walls are not really walls. Good examples of this are hills or trees. Mobs will still be able to shoot or cast through them. Also, troll ruins are notoriously poorly designed. Take example the large ruins in Northwest Stranglethorn Vale. The big blocks on the edge of each walls do count for line of sight, but the walls between them do not. Mobs will aggro and cast through them. There isn't too many good rules to follow here, but just be aware of that. Caves and dynamic respawns. So some areas are designed in a way where the game aims to balance the number of mobs present at any given time through dynamic respawns. This means if an area is highly populated, mobs will respawn at a faster rate to compensate for more people farming. This is very dangerous when you're in a cave. Things look clear when you walk in, you engage a mob, and then out of nowhere everything starts respawning and you get cornered off. Play safe in caves and always assume you could be fighting 2 things, or maybe even more, at once. On top of that, your get out of jail free card won't always work. Again, this could be more class specific, but most classes have some kind of way to reset a fight which can fail. Feign death can be resisted and mobs will just keep hitting you. Sometimes you fear a mob and it runs in the direction you're trying to escape to. Intimidating shout can resist, and the list goes on. Don't always play around having one specific tool which has to work. Have multiple exit routes. Mobs can also heartbeat resist most CC, meaning after a crowd control effect has landed, every so often the game will perform a check to see if the mob resists the ongoing effect. If they do, it will end early. This means your polymorph, which says it lasts for 40 seconds on the tooltip or whatever it is, only lasts for 4 instead. Heartbeat is directly affected by the difference in level between you and the target's resistances to the applied spell school, and the length of the CC. Vertical mob range. Once something has aggroed on you, if you are directly below or above them, they will be able to hit you with melee attacks, as enemy attack range does not care about verticality in this game. This means when you're running down a tower trying to escape, things are going to be hitting you from above even though they're absolutely nowhere near you. Yes, it is very scuffed, but you should absolutely be aware of it. You know what area is entirely vertical? Underwater. If you're swimming upwards, things below you are going to be hitting you. Also, this makes ships particularly dangerous as they're on several levels where mobs can easily hit you. I would say if you can, swim upwards at an angle instead of straight vertically. Also, watch your breath meter. In Wrath it got buffed to 3 minutes, in Classic it's 1 minute. So unless you're playing undead, be very careful about underwater. And remember, warlocks can buff underwater breathing and shamans can too with a reagent. And my final thing to say has to be, don't get too attached. Remember, death equals delete. Your first character almost certainly will not be your last one. And that's it. Any other important tips, do help others out and drop them down below. Also, I have a bunch I would like to say for each individual class on hardcore, so I could do a little mini series around that. Let me know if that sounds interesting at all. Other than that, as always, thank you all so much for watching and for listening in. I'll see you all in the next one very soon.